So now I shall request Pravrajika Brahmaprana Mataji to give her presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My topic is Vivekananda the Guru and how he transmits spirituality to us here and now. And to better give us an idea, I'd like to share with you some of his meditations that he gave while he was here in the West, so that you have your own direct experience of how he transmits to you. I'd like to begin with Swami Vivekananda's non-dual meditation given in his Jnana Yoga class. So let us begin. Most of you, probably all of you, are meditators. So we begin by sitting straight in our chair, feet firmly planted on the ground. And those of you who remember Vivekananda's meditation pose know that the right hand is upturned and held loosely and comfortably with the left upturned palm, and that is to hold the meditation. So let us begin with his meditation. First, he told us, begin our meditation by negation. Think away everything we are not. Analyze everything that comes in the mind by the sheer action of the will. The body drinks, eats, and so on. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not thought. I am he. Next, assert what we really are: existence, knowledge and bliss, being, knowing, and loving. Meditation is the means of unification of the subject and object. Meditate. Above, it is full of me. Below, it is full of me. In the middle, it is full of me. I am in all beings, and all beings are in me. Om Tat Sat. I am that. I am existence above mind. I am the one spirit of the universe. I am neither pleasure nor pain. I am he. I am the witness. I look on. When health comes, I am the witness. When disease comes, I am the witness. I am existence, knowledge, bliss. I am the essence and nectar of knowledge. Through eternity, I change not. I am calm, resplendent, and unchanging. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Who is Vivekananda the Guru? Many of us recognize Vivekananda as a foremost disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the renowned Hindu representative at the 1893 World's Parliament of Religions that vindicated India to the world. The cyclonic Hindu Swami on his post-parliament lecture tours. The patriot saint of India, a world teacher, an Ishvarakoti, an ever-free soul. But in the West, what kind of guru was Vivekananda? Did it begin and end with a traditional guru-disciple relationship? No. After his success at the 1893 Parliament, Vivekananda wrote to his brother monks, "I am a voice without a form." What does this mean? How did he experience himself? Once Miss Ellen Waldo, she was a distant connection of Ralph Waldo Emerson, observed Vivekananda standing before a floor-to-ceiling mirror in a New York drawing room. The mirror seemed to fascinate the Swami. He stood before it again and again, gazing intently at himself. Then he walked up and down the room, lost in thought. Miss Waldo watched anxiously. Now the bubble is going to burst, she thought. He is full of personal vanity. Suddenly Vivekananda turned to her. "Ellen, it is the strangest thing. I cannot remember how I look. I look and look at myself in the glass. But the moment I turn away, I forget completely what I look like." How did others see him? Lillian Montgomery attended his New York lectures in 1900, and she related her experience to Swami Pavitrananda, the former head of the Vedanta Society of New York. She vividly describes, as Vivekananda entered the hall and began to speak, immediately I knew there was something extraordinary about him. As I looked at him, it seemed to me that there was an ocean of consciousness back of him. And in some way, there was no limit to his personality. And this ocean of consciousness focused and flowed through his words. It was as if his mind was a limpid lake that was reflecting a divine light. As I listened, she said, I seemed to sense that if this form of his vanished, that a light which was shining through it would stay there forever, that it would never disappear. It was a strange sensation. Where the ordinary person has a sense of the little ego, in Swami Vivekananda, the sense of I had expanded into something vast and deep and very, very pure and very, very powerful, because it just penetrated within, and it aroused something within that was never there before. Such first-hand accounts unveil to us Vivekananda the Guru and how he transmitted spirituality. Miss Josephine MacLeod, known to us as Tontine, remembered when she first heard Swami Vivekananda in a crowded New York sitting room in January 1895. She said, "He said something, the particular words of which I do not remember. But instantly to me, that was truth. And the second sentence he spoke was truth. And the third sentence was truth." Even today, Vivekananda's words make us sit up straight. His words penetrate and become forged into our minds. When I first came to Vedanta in 1970 and was given his 4 yogas to read, I still remember how I devoured every word. Every word rang true. It was like manna from heaven. Swami Vivekananda's consciousness seemed to lift off the page, and years later, I asked Swami Shraddhananda, disciple of Swami Shivananda and former head of the Vedanta Society of Sacramento, are there certain scriptures that contain and transmit a greater degree of consciousness to the reader? Yes, he said. The Bhagavad Gita, the 10 major Upanishads, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda's teachings. Vivekananda's masterpieces, the 4 yogas, Bhakti, Karma, Raja, and Jnana Yoga. Here we find a holistic approach to spirituality. Each yoga corresponds to one of the 4 aspects of our own psychophysical being: our emotions, Bhakti Yoga; our active life, Karma Yoga; our contemplative nature, Raja Yoga; and our analytical mind, Jnana Yoga. Swami Vivekananda's 4 yogas are universal masterpieces. Not only do they gather and clearly systematize core universal principles, teachings, and practices within Hinduism, but they are also designed to be applicable to aspirants of other spiritual traditions. He was a world teacher. Bhakti Yoga, a path that gives the reason behind the ritual, the metaphysical science behind the mantra practice, that transforms our emotion into a devotion that can hook the mind to the personal God. Do you feel Vivekananda process? That is the question. If you do, you will see the Lord. Karma Yoga decompartmentalizes our view of the secular, social service, and the sacred, self-realization. It expands our spiritual arena to include our church, our workplace, our home, our every action. Our field of action becomes our face-to-face teacher. Our mind becomes the guru. We begin to observe how our work reflects our attitude towards ourselves. And this growing self-awareness then slowly remodels and refines our sense of self until gradually it transforms our behaviors and actions into yoga. We start with work and worship, 2 acts that are separate, and gradually we're able to mold our action into work as worship, until ultimately we arrive at a state where our work is worship, where serving others as the living God becomes Jnana Yoga in action. Through yoga, not only do we, the giver, feel fulfilled, the recipient feels elevated. Karma Yoga as Seva Yoga bestows us with Ananda, a joy within ourself, which is transmitted to those whom we serve. This Karma Yoga of Swami Vivekananda's acts as a holistic medicine, a universal prescription for well-being. Jnana Yoga. Through logic and our discriminative faculty, it reformats our sensate, dualistic prone mind to understand and embrace the non-dual Vedanta paradigm. Our true self, which is neither body nor mind, and this cosmos, so in accord with modern science. In Vivekananda's New York classes, the Swami teaches us to worship Virat, the cosmos, the consciousness identified with the ocean of matter, which sees all bodies as whirlpools of matter in an ocean of matter. Brahman, the cosmic mind, the consciousness identified with all minds, which sees all minds as whirlpools in the ocean of mind. Akshara, Prakriti, primordial ignorance. It sees the individual ignorance in an ocean of Maya. And then last, Ishvara, the personal God, the soul of all souls. Sees all souls as its body, and everything as its body, mind, and individual consciousness. So how does this work? How can we apply this? The Swami teaches us to see our individual consciousness in relation to cosmic consciousness, gross, subtle, and causal, and ultimately merge into infinite consciousness. So he gives us an expansive meditation to try to see this universe as my body, and to know that I see this universe in my mind, not out there. It all takes place within the mind. The world we see is inside of ourselves. And he prods us to know that perspective, to be a reflection of the cosmic mind. And that furthermore, behind all that is the power of Maya, the source of all the diversity that we see. So in this way, step by step, we enlarge our sense of self to know that it is a part of the cosmic and ultimately the infinite. We expand our sense of self and try to merge it into Ishvara, our chosen ideal, the personal God. And then finally merge Ishvara into the higher self, the one self in all. Vivekananda gives us the practice of affirmation. I am the self of the universe, eternally blessed, eternally free. Free you are already, he tells us. How could the free ever be bound? It is a lie. You were never bound. How could the unlimited ever be limited by anything? Infinite, divided by infinite, added to infinite, multiplied by infinite, remains infinite. You are infinite. God is infinite. Never allow the mind to think that you have not reached the goal. And then Vivekananda tells and retells us the story of the lion and the sheep, so that every time we remember it, it drives that affirmation home. Once upon a time, a lioness came upon a flock of sheep, and as she jumped at one of them, she gave birth to a baby cub. and she died on the spot. So this lion cub grew up in the sheep flock, ate grass, and bleated like a sheep. It never knew it was a lion. One day, a lion king came across the flock and was astonished to see this huge lion eating grass and bleating like a sheep. At the sight of him, the flock fled, and the lion sheep with them. But the Lion King waited and watched for his opportunity. And one day, he found the lion sheep asleep. He woke him up and said, "You are a lion." "No, I'm not," bleated the lion sheep. But the Lion King took him to a nearby lake. "Look at yourself in the water. Don't you see a lion? That thou art." The Lion King roared. The lion sheep looked. "Well, yes, I am a lion," and began to roar too. And thus he was a sheep no longer. Raja Yoga, the religion based on realization. Yes, we too can realize God. We can see God through a systematic methodology of contemplation and meditation. Swami Vivekananda gave a guided meditation, many guided meditations we can find in his Raja Yoga classes, which Western aspirants find very helpful. Coming from an Ishvara Koti, each one has a special power. So for 3 to 5 minutes, let's take Swami Vivekananda's meditation, Calming the Lake of the Mind. It's an ancient Sankhya Vedanta mindfulness meditation, and discover for ourselves its value. So we know the routine. We sit straight in our chairs, feet firmly planted on the ground to stabilize our meditation. Right palm upturned, resting in our left palm, holding the meditation. And we close our eyes. Vivekananda tells us, let the mind drift. Picture the mind as a calm lake stretched before you. Thoughts come and go as bubbles, rising and breaking on the surface, becoming ripples that are ever widening circles. Make no effort to control your thoughts, but watch them. Follow them in imagination as they rise, break, and float away. Watch the mind as a thing entirely apart from yourself. I am not the mind. I see that I am thinking. I am watching my mind act. Hold fast to the idea. I am the witness, watching my mind drift. The mind is not I. Be the witness. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. So what do we learn by such practice? One that is often performed at the beginning of our regular meditation. First, it helps us to calm and center ourselves. And second, it is a useful practice to later analyze and deconstruct the mind. We can ask ourselves, am I the mind? Science tells us that anything that can be observed, in this case our thoughts, is matter. So mind is subtle matter. This is a radical truth. Therefore, I have a mind, but I am not the mind. With practice, then, we begin to observe the subconscious mind, a deeper level of the mind, the hidden thoughts, the emotions, memories, the samskaras that are actually fueling our actions. Then we learn how to target and attenuate those obstacles through specific yoga practices. Counter thoughts, the practice of dispassion, renunciation. So through mindfulness meditation, we learn to refer to our higher mind, the buddhi, the part of the mind which points to the witness consciousness. And with practice, we're able to periodically reposition ourselves in that attitude throughout the day. As we advance further, we begin to experience the awareness of our awareness, our essential being, from which thoughts rise and fall, the unseen seer, the witness consciousness. Ultimately, yoga means complete union, where subject and object become one. Aside from Vivekananda's meditations, his spiritual talks, and his written works, how does he continue to transmit spirituality to us here and now? Through his life. Our doubts are voiced through his doubts and addressed directly to his Guru, Sri Ramakrishna. And when we read these intimate exchanges, they make us feel that the young Naran provides us with a direct conduit to Sri Ramakrishna. And when Sri Ramakrishna removes Naran's doubts, he is removing our doubts. And that is how Vivekananda, through Vivekananda, Ramakrishna and our Vedanta tradition become personal. We feel a kinship with Vivekananda. He belonged to the Brahmo Samaj. He received a Western education. He highly regarded the Western method of analysis and its material science. He used scientific methods to scrutinize Sri Ramakrishna's life teachings and extraordinary spiritual experiences. Vivekananda admitted, I doubted the master for 6 years. The first example. At first, Naran couldn't accept any man as a guru. And over time, Sri Ramakrishna's immaculate life and ecstatic states showed him to be one who spoke only those truths that he himself had realized. During his second visit, upon receiving the touch from Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda later related, immediately I had a wonderful experience. My eyes were wide open and I saw that everything in the room, including the walls themselves, was rapidly whirling around me and receding. At the same time, it seemed to me that my consciousness of self, together with the entire universe, was about to vanish into a vast, all-devouring void. Unable to control myself, I cried out loudly, "What are you doing? Don't you know I have parents at home?" Sri Ramakrishna laughed and again touched his heart with his hand. "All right, let it stop now. It will happen in its own good time." Naren later questioned, how could someone I thought to be mad destroy the strong structure of my mind and reshape it as if it were a lump of clay? Naren became determined to understand the nature and power of this God-man. Second example. Vivekananda was determined not to accept anything Sri Ramakrishna said about spiritual experiences without experiencing them for himself, whether belief in the Divine Mother or non-dual or nirvikalpa samadhi. After his father's death, when Naren's family was in dire straits, and he begged the master to pray to the Divine Mother Kali to relieve his family of its poverty, Sri Ramakrishna replied, "You don't accept the mother. That is why you suffer. You must go to her yourself with your prayer." So 3 times Naren went to the Kali temple, and 3 times he saw the mother conscious and living. Overwhelmed, his prayer could only be, "O Mother, grant me divine knowledge and devotion always." At last, he had to beg Sri Ramakrishna to intervene on his behalf, until Ramakrishna promised him, "All right, your family will never lack simple, plain food and clothing." Third example. Naren kept his mind open to receive truths, teachings of unknown truths, but subjected Sri Ramakrishna to rigorous testing. One day, Sri Ramakrishna shared with Naren the nature, the oneness of the Jiva and Brahman according to non-dualistic Vedanta. Later, Naren joined his buddy Hazra, a pretentious devotee, and they ridiculed together the teaching. Ha ha! Can it ever be possible that the water pot is God, that the cup is God, that everything we see and all of us are God? But then, in an ecstatic state, Sri Ramakrishna approached Naren, smiled, and touched him. Vivekananda later related, "That day, my mind underwent a complete revolution. I was aghast to realize that there really was nothing whatsoever in the universe but God. When I got home, I sat down to eat, and I saw that everything, the plate, the food, my mother who was serving it, and I myself, everything was God and nothing but God. When that first intoxication lost some of its power, I began to see the world as though I were dreaming." We see through the lens of Naren, the future Vivekananda, how his use of the scientific method, his scrutiny and rigorous questioning, not only extract great truths and displays of spirituality from Sri Ramakrishna, but also increases our trust in him as a gauge to measure Sri Ramakrishna's greatness, until finally we gain our own conviction in the light of Vivekananda's strength and breadth of mind as he attained his full growth as a world teacher. The breadth of Vedanta that Vivekananda brings to us provides food and freedom for us, each of us, as spiritual aspirants to embrace various spiritual attitudes throughout our lives, even throughout our day. Whether as a bhakta, a jnani, a karma, or Raja Yogi, a dualist, a qualified non-dualist, or a non-dualist. In this, Westerners embrace Vivekananda because he democratized religion. For us, this was his universality. And furthermore, all yogas, all approaches to Vedanta are available to all people, regardless of race, nationality, gender, social class. Self-realization is the birthright of both monastic and lay devotees. Once Vivekananda was asked by the chronicler of the diary of a disciple, "How many disciples do you have in the West?" "A good many," he replied. 2,000 or 3,000? Maybe more. "Are they all initiated by you with mantras?" "Yes." "How is that so? Only Brahmanas are entitled to receive the pranava Om." "My disciples are all Brahmanas," he explained. "In India, one is held to be a Brahmana by one's caste, but in the West, one should be known as such by one's Brahmanya qualities." Vivekananda came to America. He wore our clothes. He ate our food. He spoke our language. He loved us. He belongs to us. He's our friend and our champion. Was it not in this country that he boldly proclaimed, "Come up, O lions, and shake off the delusion that ye are sheep. You are souls immortal, spirits free, blessed, and eternal. Ye are not matter. Ye are not bodies. Matter is your servant, not you the servant of matter." And so we see how there are so many places in the United States that are connected with him, where we can feel his presence and can bring his divine lila, his divine play, alive in our minds. Chicago, where he became known to the world at large, New York and San Francisco centers, which he founded, Boston, Ridgely Manor in upstate New York, Camp Taylor in our own backyard, where he gave the meditation on the heart of a lion. As a young nun, I wondered, why this meditation? And the answer came years later. Swami Vivekananda's meditations speak to those coping with today's high-stressed lifestyle, and to those many who suffer from anxiety and depression. This particular one touches the hearts of children and adults alike. At Camp Taylor, Swami Vivekananda recaptured the simple, direct approach of the Vedic Rishi, to see the world as spiritually alive, which is embraced by the spiritual but not religious aspirants who opt for silent retreats or treks into our nation's reserves to seek solitude. You know the story, many of you. One night, Vivekananda built a fire on a sand spit near a stream, and a small band of his Western disciples sat around it. And he said to them, "You may meditate on whatever you wish, but I shall meditate on the heart of a lion. That gives strength." So let us end with this meditation, again sitting straight in our chairs, feet firm on the ground, our hands loosely held in our lap, and with eyes closed, let us breathe in strength 3 times and expel all weakness, all low, mundane thoughts. Picture the lion in the heart. The heart is the center of our sense of identity, the center of our being. Dwell on the spiritual qualities represented by the lion. It radiates strength, fearlessness, majesty, mastery, freedom. The lion is a creature of the jungle. It has no enemies and therefore fears no one. It knows that it is a match for all circumstances. Let us feel we are established in that strength. Know you are free. Strength blazes from the eyes of the lion. It illumines our heart. It courses outward into the thought channels of our mind, through our bloodstream, our veins, the sinews of our arms, hands, and feet. Our body is filled with strength. Our mind is established in strength. We know the self. The Atman fears nothing, not even death. We are centered in that which transcends time, space, and all that belongs to this fleeting world of matter. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace.